What's going on, YouTube family? This is Massify Gaming, and today I wanted to do just a quick settings video. If you hit the escape button, the first thing I want everybody to know about, which took me a little while to figure out, was that this edit HUD don't go like settings UI like you would with most MMOs, and this allows you to just drag around absolutely everything about the UI layout, which is really nice. I mean, there's some customization here. What I would like to see that they don't have, which kind of sucks, is I would have liked to have seen them add a way to have multiple hotbars. Now, if I'm wrong and you found a setting that you can stack hotbars, like let me know. I like to have the multiple hotbars. I like to have a sidebar with some other stuff so that it's just all ready for me to access. Take a look here in the town. You can see I'm getting in the 60s for FPS. And this, when I first launched the game and used the recommended settings that they gave, I was in the low 40s, which is very odd. So if we go into settings and take a look at your graphics settings, you want to look at, so we have the monitor resolution here, which is 3840 by 2160, and then there's resolution underneath that. So I accidentally had this on 3840 2160 monitor, and then the resolution was on 1440p. So, 1440p. So don't make that mistake if you're trying to use like 4K or something like that. Now, if we go down here, and obviously you have DLSS. If you have DLSS, you're probably going to want to activate it. I just choose quality because I think once we start getting down into like ultra performance, stuff like that, it just doesn't look as good to me. NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency on plus boost is what we're going to want to use. And frame gen, we're going to talk about frame gen in a second, okay? Frame gen, there's some caveats to it. It's definitely helpful if you have a 40 series graphics card, but for those of you that don't, you're not even going to have this setting whatsoever. So now going on to quality, I never ever have a preset, ever. But in this game, you should. And the reason for that is I've noticed that when it's on user settings and you adjust each one of these things individually, I haven't seen gains in FPS like I should be seeing. Like if I turn down character shadow quality and a lot of the shadows, I should see some decent gain in FPS, but it was really all over the place. Sometimes I would see gain in FPS, sometimes I'd have to close down the game and restart the game in order to see the settings actually change, so which is really odd. And there's only one setting in here that should force you to restart the game, which is shader preloading, and this defaults to high unless you're using like the Epic preset, for example. But let's say you want as much FPS as possible, like as humanly possible. Right now, I'm just gonna say use the medium preset. I've tested all the presets extensively, and the best thing I can say is that at medium settings, we still have some really decent graphics, and you're not gonna have these massive drops. But if you do have massive drops, they're not gonna feel as bad, simply because of the fact that you're dropping down from like 100 or 150 or 100, you know what I mean? Like it's a lot easier to do that than to have your FPS be at 60 and you drop down into like 45, for example. Another quick thing I want to cover in the settings is if we go back to settings and you go to gameplay and then you go to target, it is going to default to search by distance. That there's not inherently an issue with doing it search by distance, but when you're playing a PvP oriented game, what you don't want to do is accidentally not target the right thing. So if you're on classic mode like I am and you hit tab to tab target, like most other MMOs, you might not target the player that's next to you because there's a monster closer to you. So what you want to do is switch this over to by order of priority, which allows you to check and uncheck these boxes so that you can decide what targets are the most priority for you. Now, if you're looking for controls, that's under shortcuts and shortcuts again, which will give you your quick slot controls. I use an MMO mouse, so I wanted to rebind these to what I wanted them to be and not what the game defaults as. But we go back to gameplay and then we go down to UI on this one. This is where, like, if you're older like me, like I'm mid 30s, okay? So I don't have the best eyes anymore. And I know that sounds crazy for people that are like in their 60s, but I've needed glasses my whole life. I wear contacts. So when I'm playing a game, I don't want to have to squint and struggle to read, right? So the HUD UI size just raises or lowers the entire HUD. And then you also have your cursor size. So if you're like, man, this cursor is massive, I want it to be smaller, uncheck this box, click, 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 click. You can make it as small as you want. So lastly, we're gonna talk about the frame generation, which if we go back into the graphics settings, I literally almost forgot to talk to you guys about this. If you activate frame gen, you are going to get much higher FPS. Everything's gonna be smooth, everything's gonna be great. Remember that frame gen means that what it's gonna do is insert basically a fake frame in between your regular frame to make the FPS feel as smooth as possible. Now, the issue with that is pay attention up here to the top right to your latency. I've done a couple hours with the frame gen on and I've done a couple hours with the frame gen off. The problem with frame gen on is that overall I've noticed that the latency is quite a bit higher. So keep that in mind if you're gonna be doing a lot of PvP. You might wanna just deactivate frame gen. But with that being said, guys, I'm having a blast with this game. It has a lot of the elements I look for in an MMO. Don't really like the free-to-play, like, you know, the store kind of stuff. I did a video on that. Nothing's really changed in that regard. It's okay, you know, it's all right. It's not crazy, but it's not great either. So give it a shot on October 1st. Check it out, make a character, and yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.